Hello! I don't think I've given a proper introduction to this clip, but my name is Emily and welcome to the Astro Library. And today I have for you guys, by popular demand, based on the poll that we did, I'm doing the 24-hour reading challenge because you guys want to mess up my sleep schedule. And right before school too. It's fine, I love you all, and I've been wanting to try this challenge. So it is about 10:50 on Wednesday, September 21st, and I'm going to read from now until 10:50 in the morning tomorrow, a whole bunch of books, and hopefully, probably, maybe finish something if I'm lucky. I don't know how this is going to go. I haven't pulled an all-nighter since my undergrad days, and maybe not even then. I don't know if I'm going to actually last. I'm gonna give it my all, the old college try. And to do that, I'm actually gonna do something I don't normally do. I'm going to be reading a chunk of books of all kind of different varieties. So here I have The Serpents and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, who has been gaining a lot of popularity, and all my friends keep telling me to read specifically this book, so I have it here finally. My friend lent it to me. I've started it slightly. I think I've read maybe like 30 pages, so I'm not that far in. I also have some of my TBR books. So I have The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, and I have Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour. So I have all of these physical books to kind of tide me over when I get sick of looking at one of them. A couple of them are really short, two of them are really chunky, so I get a variety and kind of like different spices and different genres. And again, hopefully something to keep my interest as I'm reading for 24 hours. And if things get really bad and I can't do words anymore, I'm gonna switch to an audiobook of something. I don't know what, I'll be completely honest with you, but just something so I can like shut my brain off and turn on a video game and play as I'm listening. Maybe The Sims, maybe some Stardew Valley, some Persona 5, I don't know, something to kind of just brain melt and like give my eyes a chance, like a rest from reading and thinking about a book too hard, and just let the story happen to me. That is the plan. But currently I'm going to sit on this couch in this little nest that I have built. I'm gonna sit there and I'm going to read, I think I'm gonna start with Fahrenheit 451 because I have to read that book. Might as well just kind of get it over with. I think I'm gonna go pick up some tabs and a pen so I have something to work with, and then I'm gonna eat my breakfast and read that book. But I will catch you in the update next time I either finish a book or I have something to say. It is about 1 o'clock, and as you notice, I need a bit of a scene change. So I've been reading pretty much the whole time. I think I had to stop and answer a couple emails here and there, but I've been reading and marking up Fahrenheit 451, as you can kind of see by my many, many different tabs here. Now, this is not something I normally do when I'm reading books, just because I tend to just want to sit down and absorb the story. But because I'm going to be teaching on this novel and it's a reread, I really wanted to make sure I'm marking down points for discussion. I'm marking really important parts. I'm marking quotes that really stick out to me. So it's taken me a lot slower of a time to read this book. I almost kind of want to stop just so I can sit and finish it. I don't find this process very enjoyable for my own reading and what I like to do, but because I'm trying to be very mindful as I'm reading this book, it's slowing me down. So like I said, I'm on page, you can see here, 27 of this book, and it's only 160 pages, or just, I think, like a couple shy of that. So it's not a long book. Oh, I guess I probably should tell you what this book is about, huh? So Fahrenheit 51 is a sci-fi novel set in the future. God, I don't even know what year this is supposed to be taken in. I'm pretty sure we've passed it in terms of its future because this was written in the 1950s and it's kind of imagined future of then. So in this book, we are following Montag, who is a firefighter, a part of the company 451. Now, firefighters are a little bit different in this world. Unlike firefighters of our time that put out fires, the firefighters in this world are in charge of burning books because they are illegal in this world. And so we follow Montag, who is one of those firefighters, and he really seems to be proud of his job and is happy, or at least that's what he thought, until one day when he's walking home from work, he runs into Carissa, his 17-year-old neighbor, who's this very odd girl, and starts asking all these sort of questions that are making Montag think about his life and really start questioning if he really is happy with the life he's living and the job he has. Like I said, I'm not that far into it, so I can't give you too big of a summary of what's going on, but that's just the general premise. We're watching as Montag starts questioning his society and start questioning, is what he is doing right? And should books be banned and should they be burned like he has been doing for about 10 years now? So I'm gonna see if I can power through some more of this and maybe draw back on this, maybe just start underlining and leave the tabs for later because I tend to like fiddle with these tabs a lot more, which slows me down. But I'm still really enjoying this book. Like, I've read this book before and it's been a long time since I've read this book, but I find myself just falling back in love with the story and really enjoying what I'm reading and just getting to know Montag again and meeting Clarice, and again just this very slow descent in what I remember being a very beautiful story, or rather a beautifully dark story. I don't know if you can call this world beautiful per se. I'm very excited to get more into this book. It's super relevant to today, but more than that, I just remember loving this book so much, so I'm really happy to be diving back into it. I'm gonna go ahead and read some more of this. I'm gonna charge my phone a little bit and I'll catch you in the next update. Hello, I'm back. It is about 5:11 and I have officially finished Banner 451. I forgot how much I love this book because I still do love this book even after so many years away from it, coming back to it and just like diving back into this world and getting to read Ray Bradbury's writing again. And as you can see from my tabs, I was quite successful in marking it up. Ignore this like last chunk. This book is not only the book itself, but it also has a number of like other articles, which I will read at a later date. That is not my priority. I have finished the main story and I actually read the forward introduction that Neil Gaiman wrote, which was beautiful, a beautiful introduction to this work and made me really think about this book in a new light. Now, the ending of this book, I do remember not loving, and I feel the same way this second read through, because while the book is very interesting, the ending kind of gets a little convoluted and there's just a lot going on. You know, it reminds me a lot of the end of Fight Club. I would say they're on the kind of the same wavelength of like people who like these books and who like constantly bring them up. Kind of the same vibe where things like this big grandiose kind of reveal. We have war going on and explosions with bombs, and it's kind of wild and kind of convoluted, but also still so beautifully it was so beautifully written and still a really pointed commentary on the overall state of the world that this book takes place in. I really enjoyed it. I'm so happy that I took the time to not only reread this book, but to really slow down and make sure I got all my little tabbies in and have some points where I could talk about in discussion and just take this book at a lot slower pace than I would have done if I just read it. That being said, I am so glad to be done with annotations. I am so glad to be done. It's taken me so long to read this book that I want to throw it because I know I can read a lot faster, and it just felt like this book was agonizingly slow because of the slower pace. But it's done. I'm done. I don't have to think about it. Oh, hello, Nella. And I can go ahead and move on to my next book. Now, I'm not sure exactly what I want to read. So I'm pretty sure that I want to read something that's a little more mindless. I don't have to think too hard, just because I had to think really hard while reading an annotated Fahrenheit 51, because I'm not reading it necessarily for enjoyment, but to look at it through an academic lens. I think that counts out both Serpents with Wings and Night and The Blade itself, just because I think these things are gonna be a little more complicated, and I'm gonna save them for the middle of the night when I'm fucking loopy as all hell and I can't understand them. That might be the best time to read these books and just kind of like go with it. Really suspend my disbelief, you know? I'm thinking of doing Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour, just because I know this will be another really simple and easy read. I don't think I'll have to think too hard about this book, and because I won't be annotating it, I know I'm gonna go through it a lot quicker. But I'm also tempted to see if I could find this as an audiobook and then play some games and listen to it. In fact, I think that's what I'm gonna go do. I'm gonna try to see if I can find this as an audiobook via one of my libraries. Yeah, maybe consume it that way. Just so I have a bit of a breather between books and I don't feel like I'm drowning in words. I feel like I definitely don't want to pick up a pen in the next however many hours I left in this stupid challenge. Oh, why'd I do this to myself? I'm gonna go do that, and I will catch you in the next update. All right, hello. We are in my kitchen because I have to give my dog some medicine, so I'm going to prepare that as I explain to you kind of what is going on in this book I'm reading. So as you kind of saw from the previous clips, I did in fact find an audiobook for Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour, and I was listening to it as I was playing The Sims, and really it's just kind of an okay book. So far, I think it would have a little more impact if I was actually, I think, fully devoting all my attention to it, and instead of listening to it in audiobook form. I think maybe then it would have, again, just a little more impact for me. But right now, it's just kind of like whatever of a story. So we're following this girl, Mila, as she is in the aftermath of some sort of like traumatic event, or like traumatic life, really. And she's decided to go off and take a position as a teacher at this lighthouse that has like a small community around it filled with like other people who are running away from their lives. And so we're with Mila, following her, so we're dipping in and out of her memories and her present days as she's in this community near this lighthouse, and what she's remembering of her past, because she was a foster child and in the foster care system for a long time. So we're getting memories of her there with various parents that kind of had wanted her but ultimately didn't work out. We're getting memories of her mom and her mom's boyfriend that kind of seemed to have like this really weird relationship. Again, I don't quite know exactly what it is yet. We're just getting like little hints here and there. And then her life at the community, which seems to be everyone's really welcoming and really like happy that she's there and seem to like enjoy her company, especially the little boy she's teaching, and that seems to really take a liking to her, little Leo, who's also kind of had his own traumatic memories. We see them get closer and closer to each other, and she's trying to figure out how to be a figure for Leo while also dealing with her own kind of trauma. So it's, like I said, it's interesting, but it's also not like super holding my attention, but it's still a nice like difference after sitting down and reading Fahrenheit 51 for so long, that to just be going through this. I'm also listening to this at 1.75 speed because the narrator reading this is like so fucking slow. I cannot. I'm listening at 1.7 speed and I'm not missing a goddamn goddamn thing. It sounds almost like they're normally talking, which is insane. I think I could actually bump it up to 2-point speed and be okay, but I'm keeping it at 1.75 just because I want it to make sure I'm catching more of those minor details, which I feel like if I listen to it at 2-point speed, I will miss them because it will go a little too fast. So I'm at chapter 9 out of 15, so I'm pretty far in. I'm over the halfway point. I think it said I have 3 hours remaining, so I'm gonna probably finish it in the next 3 hours if all goes to plan. I think I'm done playing The Sims. I think I'm gonna make dinner and then maybe play on my Switch. I haven't quite decided yet, but I know I'm gonna make dinner and I need to give my dog her ear medication, so I'll update you in a bit. Hello, it is I coming at you with an update. It is about 9:35 in the evening, so I'm almost at the 6-hour mark. I'm an hour away from the 6-hour mark. And I've officially finished the audiobook for Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour. And I think I would give this book a 3-star rating, but I would only give it that because of the format in which I consume this book, which is the audiobook. So audiobooks and I just don't really get along. I just have a harder time paying attention to them and really feeling the impact of a work. I find them more as a casual fun or something that I do to because I have to finish a book really fast. I could have read this book probably in a short amount of time than it would have taken me to listen to the audiobook, but I just needed that break. But I feel like it suffered because this is a really emotional and introspective book that I think works better in a reading format, at least for me, because then I have the time to really sit with the characters and really get inside their heads because it's already inside my head and I'm not listening to someone's interpretation of it. And that's not to say that the audiobook was bad. It was nicely narrated. The only issue was just how slow the narrator was reading, but speeding up the actual audio was great for that. It solved my problem. They did a decent enough job of differentiating between the characters. I just think this book would have impacted me more if I had read it instead of listened to it. And I think I'm going to eventually have to give this book another read to really see what my thoughts are. But Nina LaCour in general is just a master at the human experience, particularly in our more sadder moments like grief and loneliness. Every book by hers has made me cry. And the fact that this one didn't tells me that I didn't pay enough attention to it to connect emotionally. It was still very much a Nina LaCour work. It still dealt a lot with that emotion and that experience. And I found the story really interesting because we have our main character Mila, who is essentially trying to run away from her own kind of trauma and her memories, and she's doing that by running to the seaside community where everyone's kind of dealing with their own stuff. And the thing I didn't mention in my last kind of summary of this is that there's a visual representation of everyone's trauma in the form of ghosts that are hanging around, and everyone has their own ghost. And Mila's ghost is one that is hanging in the periphery. And the more we learn about what happened in Mila's past with her mom and in her time in the foster care system, and we're learning about other characters, these ghosts become more and more prevalent and get closer and closer and start affecting them. So, and I was totally right, by the way, about Mila's weird relationship with her stepfather, because he was a fucking cult leader who had her and her mom living in this compound and in a house without a roof for a long ass time. It was weird. And then it ended with this whole thing where I wouldn't say she killed him, but some could make the argument that she killed him. But I'm gonna go with the Batman explanation of she just didn't save him. Ergo, she didn't kill him. It's not blood on her hands, technically. If it works for Batman, it works for Mila, okay? Anyways, I wish I had more thoughts for you on this book because I feel like it's a really good one, but the medium just didn't lend itself to me. And that's totally on just me as a reader, not anything about the book itself, not anything about the audiobook. Again, the audiobook was really nice. I liked it. I just brain, no audiobooks. Hence why I have so many physical books, because that just tends to be the medium in which I consume and understand literature the best. But yes, so that is the second book down and not even the halfway point. So I'm very excited to get back into reading a physical book. But I'm also at the point where the 2 books I have left in this kind of mini pile I did was The Blade Itself and Serpent and the Wings of Night. And I don't know which of these two I necessarily want to get into. I think if anything, I'm maybe leaning a little bit more to Serpents and the Wing of Night, just because this is not my book, so I want to read it and give it back to the person whose book it is. And also, I just think this is going to be a bit of an easier read than The Blade Itself, because I've heard this one's a little slow because it's all the build up for the rest of the series, and it's pretty chunky. I mean, they're both like decently chunky, but this one's chunkier. And if I was smart, I would start this one now because I still have the mental facilities to understand this. What am I gonna do that? No, I think I'm gonna read The Serpents in the Week of the Night, and I think I'm gonna throw on YouTube while I do it, so I have something just to like distract my eye a little bit, give my brain just like a teeny tiny little bit of a rest. But I'm still gonna mainly read this. I'm gonna go start reading this some more and go before this truck cuts me off again. So I will catch you later. Hello. It is about midnight, a minute to midnight, 2 minutes to midnight. I don't know where all like my great energy was like a couple hours ago, but it's gone. Like I can't even be bothered to like clip my mic to my shirt. That's how little energy I have, and I want to sleep. And I don't know if it's just because like I've been up all day and reading all day, or if it's just this fucking book. So I'm chunk of the way in. I'm not even at 100 pages of Serpents of the Winged Night, and I'm not sure if the book is just moving slow, which I think it kind of is, but such is the game with fantasy, we're still really only setting up like what's going on. We've literally where I left off on the page, we're just starting the first of 5 trials. I probably should explain to you what this book is about, huh? That'd probably be helpful. Serpent and the Wings of Night is following our main character, Oriya. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't actually fucking know. Who is a human that was adopted by the Night King, which is the like, king of the vampires in this particular section of the realm. And every 100 or so years, there is a huge competition where any vampire can compete. And if they survive these 5 trials, they get a wish granted by the goddess everyone worships. And so our main character, Oriya, is joining this competition so she can win and kind of wish herself into being like an immortal being and as powerful as a vampire without actually becoming a vampire, which is very dangerous in the typical sense of like being turned into a vampire. I think she said it like more often than not and ends in death. After being adopted by the king, she's wanting to essentially repay that and become this, to essentially break her role of being prey. And the only way to do that, or so she thinks so far, is through this competition. Now, there's nothing special about this book. It's Everyone like raves about this book, but so far there's nothing special about it. It's very typical romantasy kind of like plot line. Everyone says this like gives like ACOTAR type vibes and like Sarah J Maas vibes, and I definitely can see where that is coming from. I'm not that far into it, so I don't want to make any judgment saying like yeah it is or yeah it isn't, or I'm loving it or I'm not. I'm just tired. And I want to go to bed, but I can't because I have another 10 hours, but I'm over halfway. I am approaching loopy, but there's nothing much I can do but continue reading. Hopefully, since the trials have just started, we're gonna pick up more, but I don't know. Oh, prediction. I think her stepfather, Vincent, the king, who's so nice and loves her so much, he's too nice, okay? He's too nice, and she likes him too much. So, of course, that means he's gonna be some evil dude, right? Like, that's just how it has to go. I'm going to read more of this, and I guess I'll let you know. I think I might break and make some tea first, just to wake my ass up. Catch you in the next update, and hopefully a little less loopy in that one. Hello. We're still no clip mic time. Just a little TikTok handheld. It is almost 2:30 in the morning. I think it's like 2:20. Energy is going so fast. I would be loopy if not for the fact that I think what I eat for dinner's not quite settling, so my stomach's a little upset with me. Overall, not a fun time. But we're here to talk about the book. So I am further into Serpents of the Wings, and I feel like I've read so much more because the text is so fucking tiny in this book. I don't know whose decision it was to make the text this tiny, but I kind of hate you because it makes it feel like I'm reading so much fucking more of this book. But I haven't even cracked the 200 page mark. I think I'm at 178, page 178, and we've gotten through 2 trials. We just finished up the second trial and have 3 more left, which the next trial is they have to team up. So our main character, Carissa, has teamed up with these 2 people. Of course, like the cocky, dangerous, her dad wouldn't like, who she's now involved with. And they've been having like high tensions until basically the end of the second trial, where not only are they helping each other out, but there was this little girl that was like trapped in the maze that they're having to go through, and she's like risking her life to save the little girl because she's human and she shouldn't have been there. And she like turns to him as she's about to pass out and is like, save the girl. We find out, of course, he does. So that's kind of like their moment of tension breaking point. So like now they're gonna become friends and, you know, probably fuck, because that's how these books go. I sound like I'm hating it. I'm not hating it. I'm interested, but I'm also reading it at 2 in the morning. So I think there's just a tiny bit of resentment that's like I'm up and awake and not generally feeling okay. So we'll reserve judgment till the end of the book, however fucking long it takes me. I probably won't finish by the time, you know, the 24 hours are up. Just because I don't know how long I'm gonna make it. I'll be honest. I don't know if I'll be able to make the full 24 hours. It's not seeming likely. I'll tell you that. I'll turn you around. I have all the dogs with me. Like, so there's Winnie, and then over here we have Dolores, and then all the way in the bed over here is Nala. So yeah, they're all asleep around me, probably like, why the fuck are you still up? And in the living room, which is a great question. One I don't have the answer to. Okay, I'm gonna get back to reading, and I will catch you in the next update. So I failed. I threw in the towel about like 4 a.m. And really that's only because I had made the mistake. And I knew it was a mistake the moment I was doing it. But it was like maybe 3 o'clock that I was sitting on this couch trying to figure out how did I want to lay and read this book, which wasn't like super holding my attention. I think mainly because I was so tired. And I said, you know what? What if I just lay down and prop the book on the cushion? See, I know you know that was a dumb idea. And sure enough, I got maybe 2 pages in before I fell asleep. And I didn't like fall asleep hard. I think I fell asleep for maybe like 15-20 minutes, if that. So like I could have gotten up and changed positions and been okay. But at that point, I was done. I was ready for sleep. And so I went to bed. And in fact, I slept so well. So very well. I didn't even bother to get dressed for you. I'm still in my PJs because just that's the nature of this challenge. It's impossible. Okay, it's not impossible, but I'm not built to stay up all night anymore. I'm over that point in my life. I no longer need to do it, especially not to read a book that's not holding my attention at 3 a.m. The thought of reading itself at that late at night is not appealing. The only time it's appealing is when I'm in the middle of something that's so good that it pushes me to that point. But to be reading for the sake of reading to get to that late in the evening or that early in the morning, not for me. But let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's talk about what we read. So we read for sure in entirety Fahrenheit 51 and Watch Over Me by LaCour. So Fahrenheit 51 took me the bulk of the time during like the day just because I was annotating it, as you can see here. And I really like this book still. I would still probably give it 4 stars only because the ending just gives me a little pretentious, overly convoluted sense. But I still really enjoy the book and I still think that it holds up today. Where I think a lot of classics, I maybe enjoyed them in the moment. I wouldn't necessarily love them. Just reading them for fun and reading them outside of like an academic setting where I'm discussing these works. But this, I think 100% you could read on your own and still really enjoy it without that kind of setting or context surrounding it. It's also still super relevant to what's going on in our world today with censorship and kind of like the government forcing its own narrative. It's still very relevant, much to my dismay. Now, for Watch Over Me, I listened to an audiobook, which was half a mistake. Mistake because I feel like I didn't get the most out of this book than I would have if I was reading it. And I know I love LaCour's writing, so I'm going to eventually have to give this a reread where I'm actually sitting down with these characters and getting in their heads a little bit more rather than audiobooks, which just tend to not stick as well for me. But this was still a really sweet story, and I really loved how LaCour is able to just convey the human experience and make us feel and connect with her characters in a way that I feel like a lot of contemporaries don't necessarily always do. But her themes always surround like grief and loss and trauma and overcoming that trauma. So there's always like a light at the end of the tunnel in LaCour's books, which is so nice because a lot of her books deal with very heavy topics. So this is a book I'm very interested in returning to. Again, diving in a little bit more, but I still really like the setting. I liked all the characters that were introduced. I love the relationship between our main character and the little boy Leo, who we see grow closer during her time in the seaside community. It was a very sweet book, which I dedicated a little bit more time. But I will say, having like the multi-variety formats for these 24-hour readathons is so good, because if I had to like sit and read, I think I would have been a lot more tired a lot sooner. I wouldn't have made it to 4 a.m, which is still impressive, by the way. I think I ended up giving this 3 stars, not because I thought it was any bad, but just because it was okay. And that's entirely based on the format in which I read it, which was not the best format for me as a reader. And the last book I started was Serpents and the Wings of Night. Rather, it's the last book I read. I had started this book, but I didn't really get that far, and I think I was below 30 pages. And where I ended last night was on page 208. So I've made quite a bit of way into this book, and it's just okay so far. I'm not like super impressed with this book, but again, I do think that is based on just how I was reading it and just like having to power through when you're tired. I'm interested in the story. I'm interested in seeing what's going on because we are at the halfway point. We're over the halfway point. There's 5 trials in total, and I'm about to start trial 3. So, and I'm not even reaching the halfway point in this book. So a lot of stuff seems to be going to happen either in the next few trials or we're gonna get some greater plot going on. But I'm interested to see where I fall on the spectrum because everyone adores this book, and I've had multiple people tell me that they think I specifically would like this book. So I'm liking it, but I'm not blown away by it. So we will have to see how it develops because it's still relatively early in terms of like fantasy. We'll just have to see how I end up enjoying it. I do think I might. I was just thinking I might read today. I'm probably not gonna read today, I'm gonna be honest with you, but I am going to continue reading this sometime in the next week or so, just because I want to get further and see if it like has that moment where it really grips me and pulls me into the story and I just have to finish it. Okay, but that was my 24-hour reading challenge. I did not pass, which is okay. Sometimes in life you fail, and that's completely fine. You're not meant to win everything you do, and I'm okay with that because I still read 2 whole books and I read over 100 pages in another book. So I read something about 300 to 400 pages, which is like a book, like a giant fantasy book. So I think I did stellar, okay? Especially for how in-depth I had to read a certain book. I tried a different medium I usually don't do, and I've even started and got further into a new book. So I did excellent. But that is it for me. If you like this video, please consider leaving a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you've ever tried the 24-hour reading challenge and if you succeeded or not. Or if you feel like just showing some love, go ahead and leave me a little sleeping emoji because that was me at 4 in the morning. If you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. I release a video every Monday, give or take. And I've been having a lot of fun creating these videos for you, trying these challenges. I'll have to do a poll more often to see what you guys want to see because I've been thinking about this idea, but I've been putting it off, you know, for a very good reason. But now I'm here for more challenges. Let me know what I should do, again, in the comments, or I'll make another poll. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!